Can Kurapika use his Scarlet Eyes without using Emperor Time? Let's talk about it. Alright, so first, a little context. Emperor Time is Kurapika's specialist ability, and for every second that he has it active, he sacrifices an hour off of his lifespan. So recently I put out a video where we guesstimated just how much of his life he's sacrificed based on all of the times we have seen him use the Scarlet Eyes and use Emperor Time. And in that video, I both had people genuinely asking, does Emperor Time always activate with the Scarlet Eyes? And then, of course, because it's the internet, people screaming about how wrong I was and actualing me, saying that just because his eyes turn red doesn't mean he's using Emperor Time. So let's get into the weeds and I'll explain. So first and foremost, if we count every single time Kurapika has ever activated the Scarlet Eyes, then no, Emperor Time was not always active because it didn't always exist. Kurapika had the Scarlet Eyes before he learned Nin, and Emperor Time is a Nin ability. So when he was a kid in his village and he activated the Scarlet Eyes, he wasn't sacrificing his lifespan because that Nin ability did not exist yet. So yes, Kurapika can technically use the Scarlet Eyes without necessarily using Emperor Time, but we don't know if that's the case anymore ever since he created it. But for sake of argument, let's assume that Kurapika isn't forced into using Emperor Time when his eyes go scarlet now. And even if that's true, it doesn't change anything I said in the previous video. Every example where we went through when I was trying to determine how much life he sacrificed, he was absolutely using Emperor Time. And how do I know that? Well, it's because I understand the underlying mechanics of what's at play here. So let me walk you through it. First and foremost, we know that when his eyes go scarlet, Kurapika becomes a specialist. So Kurapika becoming a specialist isn't actually doing anything for him mechanically yet. He just now is a specialist, right? It's not until he uses his specialist ability, Emperor Time, that he then gets the benefit of being able to use 100% efficiency in all of the rest of the Nin affinities. And that facet is what allows him to then wield all of these chains that he's made. Now, again, he doesn't have to be an Emperor Time to use all of the chains, but to use some of them, he does, and to use some of them effectively, he does. Not every specialist is 100% efficient in all of the other categories. That is uniquely Kurapika's ability that he created so that he could then use all of those chains he made. And here's the example here, right? Normally, Kurapika would only be 40% efficient in a mission, but when he activates the Scarlet Eyes and Emperor Time, that gets boosted up to 100% because that is what his ability is doing. And before anybody in bad faith says, wait, it just says Scarlet Eyes here, not Emperor Time, this is in reference to Emperor Time. If the Scarlet Eyes on their own did this for Kurapika without Emperor Time, then there would be no reason for Emperor Time to actually exist. And not to mention this panel right here where he literally explains that it's Emperor Time that is doing that. So again, it's not just an innate property of being a specialist that makes you 100% efficient in all of the other categories. Like, Krollo's not that way, Morena's not that way, Saridnik, Pito, any other specialist we've seen, that's not how it works for them. It's Kurapika's ability that does that, and that's insanely powerful, right? Which is why the contract of 1 second to 1 hour exists. It's the way that that's balanced. So to circle back to the original premise here of calculating how much time was sacrificed, in all of those examples, and virtually every time we've seen him use his Scarlet Eyes since developing Emperor Time, it's been because he needed that 100% efficiency to properly wield these abilities. So even though we don't know if he has to use it every time, we know he was using it all of those times. And then finally, this is ultimately beside the point, but I'm honestly of the opinion that he probably is forced into using Emperor Time every time he activates the Scarlet Eyes as part of the contract for that ability because it is so strong. So not only is it the 1 second to 1 hour thing, but it's like, hey, every time you activate the Scarlet Eyes now, that's the price you're paying. Anyways, y'all, that's going to do it for this one. I hope this helped clear things up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and to my toxic trolls out there, hopefully you learned something.